Introduction. Hello and welcome to my presentation. For my social action video, I decided to investigate why, in particular, the young electorate don't vote, as I often heard the question raised in programmes such as the BBC's Question Time and Newsnight. I aim to inform people on the significance of voting and how it is an important right we are entitled to in this country. To identify my target audience, I conducted some market research. This research is carried out to decipher what it is that engages your audience. I wanted to find out a number of things, including why some choose not to vote in elections, while those who do choose to do so, how much people know about political activities, and finally, what issues people are aware of and take seriously concerning politics. By identifying these points, I could then improve my investigative research as I went along, gaining more insightful and statistical answers, allowing me to form conclusions around my chosen focus of social action. Therefore, the content I will lead on to present in my video will incorporate all the points raised by my audience, helping me to create a message that viewers will engage with and react to. Primary qualitative research. Qualitative research involves more personal responses obtained at a more one-to-one basis. Within this, fits focus groups. Focus groups are where people are assembled together, usually to discuss a product before its initial launch, but for my research purposes, I used it as an opportunity to gather mixed opinions and more truthful or natural responses. As the questions were asked at a one-to-one format, it was more of a conversation, like the debates seen on Question Time. I needed qualitative responses so I could evaluate the ideas made by the people I questioned. This made it easier to discover correlations between their opinions, formulating popular content to address in my video. In my questions, I covered a range of themes under the umbrella of political voting. One thing that did surprise me was the amount of students I interviewed who admired political figures and indeed their parties, who were happy to have voted last general election. Curiously, this conflicted with what my secondary research informed me of, that many people, including politicians, believe youths are apathetic towards politics. So bearing this in mind, I've considered the possibility that I may need to broaden my targeted audience, but I'll expand on this a bit more later. Primary quantitative research. Quantitative research is more about the quantity and less so the quality, hence the name. The best way to gain this research is through questionnaires, which helps to get a vast amount of straight answers best obtained through closed questions, i.e. yes or no. This makes it easy to convert the results into statistical graphs. Furthermore, a range of questions equals a range of data. From my research, I discovered to my surprise many individuals said they would consider voting in the next general election. This was 83.33% of people who took the survey. So I decided to use their information from the other questions to decipher why they would vote. This all contributes to my aim of encouraging people to be politically motivated. Target audience. Again, this is what market research seeks to define, although it is useful to know who you're aiming your content at beforehand, so you know who to approach. A target audience is basically who I am making my social action video for, in terms of the viewer. I targeted my audience as college-age students who currently live in the UK, as I'm dealing with the non-voters of this country. To target voters around the world who don't vote in their own countries would be difficult to condense into a single social action video, since different states in the world have different political systems where in some cases there is no democracy. To follow up what I began explaining earlier, I discovered that a lot of my interviewees, who are college age, did actually have an interest in politics and an intention to vote. The underlying attitude they all possessed was their disappointment with politicians themselves. They found that they weren't being reached out to enough by them. Secondary research. I should again address my use of the programme's Question Time and Newsnight, as it was the debates and thoughts shared on these shows that inspired my project. In the Question Time audiences, people were expressing their distrust with politicians. The reason I wanted to focus on young electorates is due to the fact that I believed my fascination with politics was a rare curiosity. So I wanted other students like myself to become as fascinated with politics as I am, and hopefully attract more to the idea of voting. On topic of the BBC, I visited their website after the 2015 general election to follow just how many people had been voting. The final turnout revealed just 66.1% of the electorate voted. In honesty, I had expected more. Furthermore, a Daily Mirror online article revealed that a poll taken declared that 60% of young people would not vote in the 2015 general election. It's worth noting this poll was taken after the 2010 general election. It's figures such as these that made me curious as to why so many people would not consider voting. Evaluation. This research exercise has been useful as it has given me the chance to talk to ordinary people of who are my targeted audience. I have been able to discover what issues concern people, such as the NHS and the renewal of Trident. Therefore, I know exactly what my social action video needs to address in order to engage my viewer. If they see the issues they take seriously addressed, they will be interested in the content. In retrospect, I feel there are areas of my research I would have carried out differently. For my focus groups, I'd have designed visuals to accompany some of my questions. For example, why asked which political leader's delivery engages you the most, I would have played some clips of their speeches to make the task more enjoyable. It may have also stirred further debate between the participants. For the questionnaire, I would have included more straight yes-no answers to create clearer statistical graphs. To summarise, I set out to conduct market research to gain more insight into my target audience of young potential voters. This included the use of focus groups, which stirred some debate with my interviewees, allowing me to gain some in-depth, thought-out responses. I then converted these responses into a handful of questions demanding straight answers from participants, allowing me to see how many people agree or disagree with what issues had been raised in my focus groups. From the results of this formulated questionnaire, I could then create statistical graphs to see where, in particular, which answers for each question were most favoured. These answers would then be put into a context of which I would address in my social action video, knowing that they would be favoured topics that would engage my viewer. In conclusion, as I've briefly mentioned before, the primary quantitative research I gathered from people's responses opened me up to the issues they take seriously, which will lead on to help me engage my viewers. My qualitative research helps me to narrow down what things people need more awareness about, such as the upcoming EU referendum with the effects it will have, and furthermore, what the government can do to interest more people in politics, e.g. teach them more about it in earlier stages of education. I will also use some of my found statistics through my secondary sources as shock tactics to help people realise the extent of non-voting. This will allow people to understand my concern for this issue and hopefully influence them to act upon it in their own way. Thank you for listening.